Welcome to the Omnibus Show, a program for people who are interested in everything, with deep conversations on a wide variety of subjects. And now your host, Dave Gibbs.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Omnibus Show, the program for people who are interested in everything, with deep conversations on a wide variety of subjects. In discussing a wide variety of subjects, our guest today is Darin Bibeau, who has done many things. He is the CEO and owner of National Chimney, and he's a former Coast Guard special ops man, and he's also been a government contractor. He is a business coach and a podcaster, and he's written books and so much more. Darin, welcome.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here today.
Than's for having me. I'm excited.
I'm motivated.
Nice.
I'm motivated.
That's the goal, right?
Yeah, exactly. Get her done.
Yeah.
And so, well, starting off for chapter 1,
Okay.
Please tell us about your pathway along the motivational life. What got you started along with the business coach and the podcasting and the work that you've done before on this pathway?
I think after leaving the military and going into the business world, I was surrounded by a lot of motivated people.
Yeah.
And people that want a GSD. As we say, it's a family show, so that stands for Get Stuff Done.
Yes, there we go.
If it's not a family show, it stands for something else. You can fill in the blanks.
Thank you very much.
Yes. And the podcast every day, GSD.
And his T-shirt here,
Yeah.
that's
Hashtag
red, white, and blue.
Yes, for America, obviously.
Yeah.
I think just being around other motivated people makes you continue to be motivated.
Yes.
So that's the goal. If you're hanging around with people that aren't motivated, or you choose to just be lazy, you become stagnant, and then you're breathing the same air as someone else. That we all have so much time on Earth, right?
We do.
I think it's 1,440 minutes in a day. That's quick math, but
That's quick math.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm right.
You're pretty close to it.
Yeah.
I'd have to calculate the numbers.
But we all have the same amount of time in a day.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, we do. And I've had the conversations with people in the past who talk about, remember when you were a child. And I remember, my mind always goes back to third grade, and my teacher's class, I don't remember the subject, it was Miss Polito. And she's this wonderful, very gregarious woman. But I was just like, because I was a dreamer as a kid, I'd think about lots of stuff. And I used to look out the window, and I'd think about playing football. We played flag football back then, in third grade. Anyway, it seemed like that class took a week to get through. And then now we could just sit here having a chat and talk, and that time's gone.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, what happened?
Yeah, we're already in a new year, right?
Yeah.
It happens that fast.
I think it's, my late brother talked about how it's somebody told him it was the math of lifetime. You have shorter amount of time. But the problem with that, I disagreed with that, but I let him say his bit, is that it's still the same time. It doesn't change. So we're living the same time as a child. I think it's our whole process, our what's going on in our mind, and you get more active and responsible as an adult. So it's the same time. It's just that what's going on inside of us kind of goes more at a faster pace. I think that's really what it is.
Oh, I agree 100%. I think people, they don't prioritize things in their life as they get older that should be prioritized. Things that they would normally do when they were younger, that kind of goes by the wayside. And then what comes in is excuses. So the more you make excuses, the less motivated and the less things that are priority in your life get done. Then you become just an excuse maker.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, if you're just making excuses, nothing's getting done. Your sink's going to be filled with dishes. Your kids aren't being brought to school on time. When kids are late for school, I don't have any children, but I always laugh. Like, I was never late for school because my parents made sure I was there on time.
Yeah.
Or I had to get up earlier and made sure I walked to school on time. And now I see these kids and parents are like, oh, I had to do this and do this and do this. Well, every parent has to do that. So what you're doing is you're just making excuses.
Right. Which I didn't today.
Right.
I got here a little bit later for a pre-show. But I owned it, though.
Yes, you did. Taking responsibility
is the only way to do it.
It's a big part of it, right?
So, yeah, and you were the perfect military man. You were here ready to go.
Yeah.
And so, well, going back along your milestones, you have this incredible company called National Chimney. You were the CEO and the owner.
Correct.
Can you tell us a little bit briefly about that? Because it's fascinating to learn about people, because this man is multidimensional.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, you've got 4 locations, but I'll let you talk about it.
Yeah, it's simple. We're a U.S. manufacturing company.
Yeah.
We make everything here in America. We have a factory here in Indianapolis, one in Vermont, one in Maryland, one in Kentucky. The company was started around 1991 by my former business partner, Marty Fuller. Was a great guy, and he had a great vision. I ended up buying him out a few years back. And we make stainless steel pipe for venting systems. So if you think about your heating supply in your house, we make the product that vents all of that out of your house, whether it's from a wood stove, a furnace, or a fireplace, whether you're heating with wood, oil, corn, depends on where you live in the country.
Yeah.
And we have the largest manufacturing company in the U.S. that manufactures these products. And we're a business-to-business company, so we sell B2B, so we don't sell to homeowners. But
they can't get it at Lowe's or at Best Buy or any of those type of shops.
Correct.
Yeah.
So this is a professional product.
Yeah.
So it's installed by professionals. It's a great company. I enjoy what I do, and I've got a great team of people. We have about 300 employees, and I wouldn't be able to be here on this show or have my own podcast if I didn't have a great team behind me.
That's always good.
Yeah.
It's always good to have a great team. I've got a great team too.
Yeah.
And we get things done.
Yeah. GSD.
There you go. So your next thing was you were in government contracts, well, special ops and government contracts, but I have a feeling you'd have to shoot me if you told me about that.
We'll make a movie on that later.
Yeah, but interesting is you were located in Southeast Asia.
Yeah, well, when I was a special operator in the Coast Guard, I was in South America and Central America.
Okay.
That was my first. I was in about 8 years, and my team and I had one of the largest cocaine drug busts in the world.
Wow.
9.2 tons of cocaine.
I told you, multidimensional.
Yeah. And, we took out at the time the Cali cartel. And if anyone knows anything about the cocaine trade in the earlier days, Pablo Escobar, when he was killed, I think in December of 93 by the U.S. military, after that, the Cali cartel, it split. So the Cali cartel ended up taking over. And so several years later, our goal was to dismantle the Cali cartel.
Yes.
And,
It's still a complex problem.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Throughout the Americas, North and South America.
Yeah. And the U.S. has a huge problem. When I say the U.S., the United States has a huge problem with, obviously, drugs coming into the country, but most importantly, it's the drug use in the country that allows the drugs to come into the country.
If there wasn't a demand,
correct,
there wouldn't be. It'd be meaningless.
Yeah,
it'd be like moving rocks.
Right.
You know what I mean? Not special quartz, but I mean just rocks.
Shoveling sand in the ocean.
Exactly.
Right.
That would be the case.
And then after that, I ended up going to work for the government as a contractor in Southeastern Asia.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, you could make novels, adventure novels would be going on. But to bring your story up to time, when you started being a business coach, what brought you into being a business coach?
Well, I started when I was just working, being the president of the company. Then when I became CEO, I had a lot of people in our industry ask for some support or some help. Great. So, and I liked seeing people succeed.
Yeah.
Because if everyone helped one person and then people became more successful, we would all live.
All ships rise.
Yeah, we'd all live in a better community, right?
We would.
So I started doing it, helping people, and I do public speaking, so I was going to these events, and a lot of my customers and other people would say, hey, how much do you charge to coach, or would you mind coaching me, or can you coach my sales guys? And so I started doing it at a small level, and then it just became kind of a little bit more and more, and I enjoy doing it. Yeah.
Well, that's great. And then you also have the podcast.
Yes.
I need to say, you need to add the hashtag Everyday GSD.
Yeah.
And so, because when I first looked it up, I did the everyday, and I needed to go back and
you got to put it all together too.
Correct.
Yeah.
They're very particular about that. And so, so one thing led to the other.
Well, yeah, actually, I was on when my book came out. I was on several podcasts promoting the book, and people were talking to me about my life, and because a lot of people didn't understand really that the Coast Guard had special forces, deployable specialized forces, and a lot of people don't understand what government contracting is either. And not to
true.
Yeah, and not to get in the weeds with that. But that led me into writing this book. And then after I wrote this book, one of my good friends, Justin Askew, he read the book and he helped me with some other things, and he said, "Hey, we should do a podcast."
Yeah.
And so and then we started the podcast.
Can I clarify that?
Yeah.
What they do is they work for the government. They don't work for a corporation that's off doing its own thing. It's doing willy-nilly.
Correct.
So it's particular, and they have particular boundaries, guidelines that they have to follow, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, it's not the Wild West, even though people think it is. But
Yeah. No, I understand. So that's very interesting. And, well, here's your first book, Back to Bulletproof, A Warrior's Tactical Guide to Success. And could you tell us a bit about your book?
Sure. Basically, it's about my life story, growing up in the Adirondack Mountains, coming from a blue-collar family where my parents instilled work ethic in me as a young child, and then playing hockey, growing up, always having to do something. You couldn't just sit around. I mean, we didn't really have video games when I was a kid, but not to date myself, but I'm sure some of the kids did, But we had to be active. And then from there...
Your mom sounds like my mom.
Yeah, probably. Probably that same generation era, right? And then when I joined the military, I took the skills from the military and being a government contractor and brought them into the business world. And now, obviously, like as I mentioned earlier, we have a very successful company. But again,
that's great.
It's because of the team around me.
Yeah, teams matter, and teams are how you succeed.
Yeah, 100%.
Nobody's an island. Nobody can do it all by themselves. And so, well, fabulous. In the description on the podcast, we will put the link to Back to Bulletproof so that you can find that book for yourself, as well as the other links, which I usually mention at the end, but let's get her done now, right? Get ahead of the day. And so that is so fabulous.
And so there's a chapter in the book that's about everyday GSD. And because of that I got a lot of feedback specifically about that.
Yes.
And some other chapters in there, again, because we talk about some operational stuff that obviously got cleared that I was allowed to talk about.
Sure.
But when we talk about the everyday GSD part of it, about getting stuff done, we decided, you know what, there's such a demand for that in our culture right now that we'll create another book. We'll write another book just on everyday GSD.
Okay.
And then as we started working on that last year, it'll come out this year. And as we started working on that, we were talking to some people, and they're like, I wish there was a version of this for kids. So that's where we came up with, we're going to do a kids version.
Get stuff done.
Yeah, definitely get stuff done.
For the kids.
For the kids.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I think that get them while they're young, you know, motivate young children to have a meaningful life and have a purposeful life.
Yeah.
And, we just need more of that. So that'll be great. And then that book is on its way.
Yeah, it'll come out this year.
Okay.
Right.
So, and then they, they can find that on your website.
Correct. You can find it on my website, which is www.darin, DARINBIBEAU.com.
Okay.
And then what we're going to do another release of the first book, and through our publishing agency that we're working with, then it'll be in a bunch of bookstores, and we'll do book signings and all that good stuff.
That'll be great.
That's a little bit down the road this year.
Well, fabulous.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Darin. We're going to take a break right now, and we'll be back with Chapter 2 of the Omnibus Show. Well, welcome back to Chapter 2 of the Omnibus Show. This week's guest is Darin Bibeau, and we're talking about we've been talking about his book and his being a business coach and his podcast. And since this is more on the moving towards the educational side and your motivator, help me motivate our viewers today and myself, because I always like getting motivated, because you can always do things better, can't you?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So with your being a business coach, is that primarily working with other people in your industry?
No, outside of the industry.
Outside of the industry.
It originally started in the industry, then it expanded to outside the industry.
Outside of the industry.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that you're primarily giving them advice and motivation about just getting it done.
Well, I think the confusion a lot of people have is the difference between discipline and motivation.
Right.
Right? Because discipline you're disciplined, right? You have to, if your alarm goes up at 6 a.m., you need to get up. You just get up at 6 a.m.
Just get up.
Right? And if it's time to go to the gym, are you motivated to go to the gym? You might not feel like it because you maybe went to bed a little later, you're watching a movie with your partner, but at the end of the day, the discipline gets you up to go to the gym. The discipline gets you up to go to work, to do what you need to do.
Yeah.
Motivation comes and goes, but you need motivation. Right? So when I'm coaching someone, I find out what their patterns are, and then we either try to correct them or expand on them. Because some people have it in them already, but they're just not really utilizing the skill or the talent that they've been instilled into them for years. They've kind of let it go by the wayside.
Yes.
So I can tell when we talked earlier, pre-show, from your family history, your parents instilled discipline in you, and therefore you had motivation. And then
Help me with motivation.
Yes, right. And then as you get older, something happens in your life and you start to get stagnant or lose motivation.
Yeah.
So it's not for me to teach you about being disciplined or teach you about motivation.
Right.
It's to basically reignite that, because if I start telling you what I did for the day and then you look at in the mirror and say, wow, there's no reason I haven't done that. We were talking about the podcast earlier.
Yeah.
I have guests on the podcast. The whole point of the podcast is I want someone to listen to that show, whatever episode it is. You know, we have different people, all like-minded individuals. A lot of people think they're mostly special forces guys or girls that came on the show, because I do have a lot of them on there. But the fact is they have a lot of discipline, right, because of their job. But the truth is, most of these people had discipline and motivation before they went in, right? And then they've expanded on that. So the goal is when you watch the show, you say, okay, take an individual, we'll say Jeremy Miller. I don't remember what episode. It was one of the beginning episodes. He was a former Green Beret. I think he was in for like 15 years. Don't quote me on that. But at the end of the day, he was a Green Beret, became a Green Beret. He succeeded in his career in the military, got out, ended up having a hip replacement, knee replacement, but does ultra running. So he runs.
Tell us about ultra running.
So ultra running is running like 100 miles or 200 miles all at the same time. So you can run for 24-hour race, 30 hours. And just to be clear, I'm not an ultra runner. I have no desire to do that. I like to go to the gym. Yeah. I'm not a fan. I don't like to run unless I,
have to.
Unless I have to, exactly. But here's an individual that if you listen to that specific show and you sit back and go, geez, I'm kind of tired today, I don't want to go to the gym. But you just heard about this guy who basically was a extremely hardcore individual in the military, who's now has joint replacements and will still run 200 miles. It makes you look in the mirror and go, there's no reason why I can't go do a 30-minute, jog or some light weights or some yoga. So it's
well, you're motivating me.
Yeah.
Because I was caring for a family member, and I got out of really my schedule of getting to the gym. That's my issue right now.
Right.
Is getting back into a normal schedule with that.
And what happens is people.
The morning is difficult, but the thing is, by the time the afternoon's gone, it's like, nah, can't. Can't do it. It's just too much stuff going on to the end of the day.
Correct. And what happens is you end up making excuses, but you're really only making excuses to yourself.
Of course.
Right? And we all know that. We've all done it. Everyone is. I don't want people to think when they listen to the show or they watch it on the multiple platforms that you're on that you're going to say, oh, this guy is super motivated and has all this discipline. There's days I don't want to do certain things.
Of course.
But I choose to do that.
Yeah, you have to. You have to have that overdrive.
Correct. I make a conscious decision to do it. Another guest that we had on the show, Christy Lee from the Bob and Tom Show. She's amazing. She's a female in a male-dominated industry. She's now in the Radio Hall of Fame. She was inducted last year in 2023. And if you watch that show, whether you're a female or you're a male, when you watch that show, you say, oh my goodness, I can't make excuses. Like, my boss doesn't like me, I can't get promoted. Well, you have to have workarounds, right? You have to have the discipline and the motivation. You have to set goals. If you don't set a goal, it's just a dream, right? And I think everyone should dream.
True.
But if you don't have a deadline or a specific timeline on a goal, it's a dream. And we dream at night when we're sleeping. We daydream when we look out a window in third grade. My third grade teacher was Mrs. Pisha, and I can tell you I still remember her because she held us responsible and accountable in third grade. And I remember that, just like you remember your third grade teacher.
Yeah. She was great. But she was a sweet woman. Whereas my 5th grade teacher, I looked out the window and she yelled at me in front of the whole class. Can they do that now?
Yeah,
it's
probably not.
I've talked to your mother about this. I mean, seriously,
Yeah.
like that. I thought, boy, this lady hates me.
Yeah.
All I did was look out the window.
Yeah.
Well,
and people, it's interesting. Again, my wife and I, we don't have any children. And people say, oh, you have all this extra time because you don't have children. One of the guys that I worked with before, actually one of the collaborators, Richard Conlon, on this book, my first book, he has 6 kids. And he's in his 60s. He still plays men's league hockey. He still goes to the gym. And he still takes care of his kids.
Amazing.
Yeah, so you have to have priorities.
You really do.
Yeah.
And it really is the discipline, like you said. It's, there has to be motivation. There has to be a raison d'être, a reason to do something, to be, and what you're doing, the purpose of it.
Right.
And then behind that, everything falls in line.
Correct.
And then when that day about getting up early, getting up to go to the gym, getting
Yeah.
up to do where you've got to do, to be on time, to make it happen. That's really where the rubber hits the road.
Well, and
where you make it happen.
Yeah, and think about this, a month ago in December when people were saying, oh, I'm going to have a New Year's resolution. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to start in January. Why don't you start now? Why didn't you start when you said that?
That's a very good point.
Why are you waiting? Because here's what's going to happen. You're going to start January 1st, and January 5th, you're going to be done. Because
this is true about most of the gyms
Correct.
around the country.
Yeah, when you set, because
people go for about 4 to 6 weeks.
I think it's actually less than that. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then what happens is people will set their New Year's resolution, we'll call it, but they're waiting to start it. Like in October when it's around Halloween, people are like, yeah, I can't wait. Next year I'm going to get after it. My gosh, there's still 3 more months left.
Yeah.
Why aren't we doing it now?
Yeah.
What are you waiting for?
Well, do it now should be the motto.
Yes.
Yeah. Get her done.
Yeah, GSD, right?
Of course, every day.
Every single day. Yeah, no excuses.
Yeah, there you go. And now on your podcast,
Yes.
What episode or about how long have you been on?
So we've been
far?
doing it this is our 2nd year, so almost a year and a half. 2 years. Yeah.
Sure. Well, that's fabulous.
And they're released on the 1st and 15th of every month, so it's not once a week like your show.
Okay.
But we have a studio. We pre-record them, and
Yeah. But twice a month is very good.
And we did that because in the military, and again, it's not a military podcast. I want to be very clear.
Sure.
But in the military, I have a lot of my former workers that I worked with, former coworkers, and some team guys that I'm still very active with. They get paid on the 1st and 15th of every month. So I wanted to make sure they could always know when the show was out, so they're not having to search for it. So that's why it's on the 1st and 15th of every month.
I was going to say, it's like, okay, everybody, you're going to get your check, but you're going to listen to this program first.
I'll have to do a deal with the military. Saying, to get your check, you have to. Yeah.
You've got to listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
And that is hilarious. What is up now? We're going into the new year for 2024. What's coming up? What's ahead?
Well, on the podcast, we have a lot of good guests, but I don't want to.
Sure.
Don't want to share who they are because, like I said, we've already pre-recorded several.
Yeah, no, I understand.
But we have some really, really good guests that are extremely motivated, extremely disciplined, and they're good in their career. And let me rephrase that. I should say great in their career because being good is okay, but the goal is to be great, right? I mean, that's what we try to achieve every single day.
Yeah, be best in our own lives.
Yeah, in our own lives. I don't have to be better than you.
Right.
I just have to be better than me yesterday.
Because the thing is, once you get out of sports,
right,
it doesn't matter what that person's doing.
Correct.
It's really, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And am I accomplishing my life calling, my life goals that need to be done?
Yeah.
And that helps.
Yeah.
And that basically gets us on the road of our meaningful life.
Right. I mean, every morning you wake up and brush your teeth and you look in the mirror and say to yourself, am I going to be better today than I was yesterday? And how am I going to do that? How am I going to achieve that?
Yep.
And you're going to have off days. But at the end of the day, you can have an off day. Maybe it wasn't a productive day. That's fine. We're all human, right? But how quickly can you get back to it? If you set a goal to go to the gym 5 days a week, and I use the gym as an example because I go to the gym.
It's something everyday thing.
It can be anything.
Sure.
If I have a goal to go to the gym 5 days a week, and on Wednesday I skip it, and then Thursday I skip it for whatever reason, I shouldn't say, well, you know what? I'll set that goal next January. No, I just get back on the horse, start over, and get back on your goal. If you're trying to lose weight or gain muscle or read more books. If your goal is to read 10 books in a year.
All of the above.
Yeah, all the above, right? Seriously.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, if your goal is to read 10 books, you know how long it takes you to read a book. And if you start falling behind, that's okay. Maybe you hit 9 books. Then the following year, try to hit 11.
You just get back on track.
Yeah, just get back on track.
Yeah, just get back on track, because that way you don't get caught up in that whole thing that can just really mess you up in your mind. And I think also another thing that I find in myself, because my goals are changing personally, is that I need to have a very disciplined schedule every day. And if you've been out of that, having a kind of doing all this different stuff kind of a day, and get done stuff at the end of the day, and rescheduling that's a big discipline curve.
100%.
And so with that, one thing that I do is, like, because I'm a thinker, I'm also a feeler as well as being motivated. I'm kind of both brains type. But the thing that can really put me off is getting caught up in the feelings of stuff. You can't let feelings get in the way. You just have to just focus on getting what needs to be done. As you were saying, even if you don't feel like it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, if we just go back and feel like it, you roll over in your bed. I'm going to sleep another, it's 10 o'clock, or whatever, you don't get stuff done, and that time is gone forever.
I reference in my book, it's kind of funny because it's nothing to do with the gym. It's nothing to do with really motivation, but it really is. We talk about doing dishes, right? So when you come home and you have a meal with your roommate or your spouse or your children, and you throw all the dishes in the sink, and then you say you'll get to them later, right? So now the next morning comes and you have breakfast, and then you put dishes in there again. Now you have this pile of dishes in there, and then this is a conversation between you and the people in your home. How come the dishes aren't done? And it becomes an argument. And then who's going to do the dishes? Now to fix that, as I mentioned in the book, at the end of your meal, if you just did the dishes, it's much easier to do the smaller thing and do it all the time instead of letting it build up. And now I've got to go and I've got this pile of dishes I have to do. And I was having an argument with someone. It was your turn to do the dishes. But if you took responsibility and said, you know what, at the end of the meal, we're going to do the dishes. So in the morning when I wake up, there's no dishes. We're starting fresh every single day.
Yes.
We have a lot of distractions in our world today, more than I think we've ever had. And I think when people allow these distractions to literally distract them from what they should be doing, everyone's worried about what someone else is doing or what people think they should be doing. Again, go back to the basics. Look in the mirror and go, how can I be better today than I was yesterday? How can I get back on track?
Exactly, because, and especially with our cell phones, which, we want
Necessary
you all
evil.
to listen to our shows and watch them on YouTube. But the thing is, you can get so caught up in that all day. Some people will spend their whole day scrolling from platform to platform, and that really can, you can learn a lot. I love the phone and the computer because I'm kind of research by nature. It's like you think about a lot of stuff, you want to learn about a lot of stuff. You can just get on and you can find it pretty quick.
Yeah.
The stuff that's like real science is a little more difficult, because a lot of people say a lot of different things, et cetera, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In general, if you need to know how to get someplace, you just get on. It's like, okay, that's going to take me about 2 hours to get there.
Right.
And so, there's so much you can get just pulled off the road.
Right.
And no, that's good.
There's a thing on the iPhones. I'm pretty sure probably Android has it.
I have it on Instagram. Time.
Yeah, it shows you how much time. There's on the phone in the morning, or I think I'm trying to remember, it will pop up and it'll tell you how much time you've spent on everything.
Correct.
And if you look at that and it says 5 hours on social media or 3 hours on social media, I mean, let's rethink what we're doing here, people.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, I set up my Instagram account, which is personal right now. I don't have one yet. It's another plan coming up is to have one for the show, but on my personal one, I have it set up so it's after 15 minutes, the platform sends me a note and says,
Get off.
Get off.
Yeah.
Your time is up, Dave.
Yeah.
And that motivates me
Yeah.
to like, okay, move on.
Right.
If I spend too much time on that. Because,
Right.
all those things, it's like people that you've known from the years.
Oh, yeah.
And all this stuff. And you're just trying to catch up with stuff and see what people you've known have done. Now, that's interesting, but the thing is you can't do that all day.
Right. Because if
You
you do
won't-
that all day, you're not getting anything
You're
else
not getting
done.
anything else done.
Right.
And that's really a critical thing. But coming up for now, we're going into 2024. You got another book coming up.
Correct.
And you've got the children's book coming up.
Right. We're trying to do a children's series. We're working on that right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
for different ages, the extremely little kids, coloring book style.
Oh, that's a great
and
idea.
Then the next level kids of a little bit more motivation and kind of teaching them proper discipline.
Yeah.
And some motivation without being like down your throat. And then the third one will be
Sure.
for a little bit older kids. So, to continue them on their path.
So you have the creative period as the real early years. You
Right.
just let them do their stuff because it's like having a pet almost, where it's like they don't do the dishes because
Right.
they're just too small.
Right.
And then you get to the point where they have their duties.
Right.
which-
Responsibilities.
Responsibilities
Right.
to, maybe take the garbage out or clean their room.
Right.
And then you take it to the next level.
Yeah.
And that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you've just told us about, excuse me, what's coming up on the podcast. And so there's really a lot to look forward for the new year.
Yeah. 2024. We're in it right now, and it's going to be a great year.
It's going to be a great year.
Yeah.
And so, as I've said, we're in the description, we'll put all the links to Darin's books and podcasts and such. And please look him up and subscribe. And we'll have the page for where you can get the book. And then in the future, you'll have your other books.
Correct.
So that will be great.
Yeah,
Darin,
we'll keep you posted.
we'll keep you posted. Well, thank you, Darin. It was great having you on
Yeah.
today. Thank you
you.
so much.
Yeah,
You
appreciate it.
motivated me.
I appreciate
Hope
everything
it
you're doing with the
motivates
show.
you. Yeah, thank you
Yeah,
so much.
thank you.
And that is it for today on this episode of the Omnibus Show. This week we've had Darin Bibeau as our guest. We're here in Feinstein's, and we'd like to thank our sponsor, Hotel Carmichael. And we look forward to being with you on the next episode of the Omnibus Show.
If you enjoyed this program, please like, share, and subscribe to continue the conversation. For the Omnibus Show newsletter, please sign up at theomnibusshow.com.